Her triumphs, I took a group of women that didn't believe in themselves, and I just believed in them. Her trials,
I never wanted to go to practice. I was losing a ton of weight.
Her story,
I just put my faith in God and just trusted the system.
Her why.
I want people to see what I did and say, oh, that's so awesome. I'm going to be better than that. That would be how I hope that this journey ends.
This is Her Why, where we tell the stories from BYU women's sports. Here is your host, Lauren McLean.
We're so glad you've joined us for Her Why, where we celebrate the women who make BYU sports great. Joining us now is Natalie Lainhart, Director of Operations for BYU women's basketball. Thanks so much for being here with me, Natalie.
Thank you. I'm so excited.
We're excited to have you here. This is your 4th season working with the Cougars. I want to know what first drew you to BYU specifically.
You know, I have a confession to make. I probably shouldn't even say this, but I have never actually been a BYU fan ever in my life. I didn't grow up here in Utah. I mean, I've been a member of the church my whole life, but because I wasn't ever here in Utah or near Utah, BYU never really was a thing. And in my basketball days, I was recruited a little bit by BYU, but never got an official offer. And so I think I've always had a chip on my shoulder in a way when it comes to BYU. But when I saw the opportunity and the job post, I saw a job posting for the position on Coach Mark Pope's staff on the men's basketball team, I decided, oh, wow, here's my opportunity to get back into basketball and to be a part of it, make basketball my career. Let's go. Like, I'm going to apply. I'm going to do it. And then here I am, and I'm probably one of the biggest BYU Cougar fans there is now.
And you clearly nailed that interview, yes, because here you are. So who were you a fan of growing up? So you mentioned you weren't really a BYU fan. Did you have a specific school that you loved growing up?
You know, as far as college sports go, I wouldn't say that there was necessarily a specific college team that I'd watch. I mean, I grew up going to UNLV games because it was right in my backyard, but I didn't really follow necessarily a ton of basketball. I was more, at least like sports team specific, I was more of a Pat Summitt fan. So I guess you could say I followed Tennessee a lot.
Okay.
Pat Summitt was an icon of mine, and I absolutely love her to death. And so I followed Tennessee, even had an opportunity. I went one year to her basketball camp during the summer with a really good friend of mine. And so, yeah, Pat Summitt, Tennessee, that was kind of, I guess you could say, if I did follow any team, it was Tennessee.
Good team to choose, for sure. You mentioned you first started out as the executive assistant to Coach Mark Pope for the men's basketball team. Then you made the switch over to women's basketball as director of operations. What was that transition like for you going from the men's side to the women's side?
You know, it was really exciting. It was also really sad. At the same time, I absolutely loved working for Coach Pope and for the men's team, and I think I kind of get the best of both worlds still. I get to still see all the guys and like say hello to them, walk down the hall, not necessarily be fully involved day to day, but still get to check in on them. And I feel like usually like when you leave a job in a position, you don't get to still like talk to the people that you love and be around the people that influenced you so much. But then coming over and stepping into a new position was a great change and something that I made the change, and I decided to move over to the women's side with the opportunity to grow my career. And in making the decision to come over, I actually appreciate Coach Pope and him taking time to sit down with me. And we literally walked through lots of different scenarios. It was like, okay, well, if you stay here on the men's side, here's what it would look for you to grow your career within being on a men's basketball team, men's basketball staff. If you move over to the women's side, here's the opportunities. And we had talked about being able to step into a coaching position, being able to potentially, if I wanted to pursue a head coaching job, there's just lots of different opportunities as far as coaching goes. And that's something I've always been interested in. And with that position opening, it was kind of almost like, wow, like my young Nat, my childhood self wanting to always be this coach, it kind of was almost just like this opportunity that opened up and presented itself again. And I couldn't help transitioning over to the women's staff to be able to seek after and to potentially grow into other positions, just grow my career overall.
Yeah. You saw more growth for yourself on the women's side. Mm-hmm. So what exactly do you do, or what are your roles as the director of operations for the women's basketball team?
You know, I do a little bit of everything, and I like to kind of consider it. I am and what I call myself is the behind the scenes girl. I do everything behind the scenes and off the court, and those things entail travel, organizing food, organizing where we're going to get food from, helping the girls out with any like little things such as far as things with their classes, getting things organized in that way. I help with little different, I guess, elements and aspects of the recruiting process as we recruit or as we bring people on unofficial visits, official visits, whatever it may be. I just handle everything, I guess you could say, that is off the court and that you don't really see day to day.
Yeah. Do you get to do any coaching in there? Because I know that's ultimately what you would like to do, right?
Yeah.
Do you kind of do that a little bit with this team?
I do a little bit in a way. I will help on court during practice if they need it. I help in basically any element. It's kind of interesting. I did mention I moved over to the women's side, right, to pursue the element of being able to coach. But I love my job in, I guess you could say, the operations world. I've always been a planner. I've always been somebody that likes to organize events, put things on, put things together. I mean, if I had the opportunity to be able to step into the role as an assistant coach or to pursue something in that way, I think I would totally be willing and totally want to jump in and do it. But I just have realized how much I love being behind the scenes, being able to organize and plan things. It's just something that makes me so happy, and I find a lot of joy in it. And so, yes, I am involved, I guess you could say, a little bit in the coaching element of things, but I also really love what I do that's not necessarily coaching. Everything off the court is totally my realm and everything that I take care of in that way.
I love that. You have so many different types of responsibilities. Like you said, you kind of do a little bit of everything. How do you find time for you and to breathe and do some things that you like to do?
That's a great question, too. I have always been one that just dives right into my work, and I'm very passionate, I guess you could say, about what I do here with my job. And so I haven't always been perfect at finding time for myself. I spend a lot of time trying to just get things done, I guess you could say, and just be 100% fully committed to the job. But I think that as far as me time and things like that, I love getting my nails done. And so getting my nails done is a thing that that's my me time. I love going, I guess you could say, getting facials, those kind of things like that. And that's what I consider my me time. When I go get my facial, the girl that does my facials for me, she teases me because I will fall asleep without question, anytime. Anytime I'm always moving and going, right? And so then as soon as I stop, I can fall asleep anytime, anywhere. And so she always teases me because I literally, as soon as I lay on the bed, I pass out, and then I'm knocked out until I wake up. And so I'm see, that's me time. I get to just relax and chill going and doing that. And then I also I do have horses. I have a baby foal that was born last year around April, and I grew up riding horses. I grew up around horses. My dad, he was raised on a ranch in Wyoming, and my grandpa owns a ranch up there, and so riding horses has always been a passion of mine. And so when I do have time and I am kind of one-on-one by myself, you can find me by my horse and on top of a horse too, riding around.
So cool. Nails, facials, horses. I love it.
Yes.
Those are some great hobbies. You've had this job for 2 years now. What's it been like to work under Coach Amber Whiting and for an all-female basketball team?
It's been great. It's funny because I've always been in, I guess you could say, previous positions or things that I've done, or just I guess you could say in my personal life, I've always kind of been the girl who's around the guys, right? And I've been the girl that's a part of the guys, and I've always just had a lot of guy friends. And so it definitely was a transition, I guess you could say, in itself, coming over and being surrounded by a lot of female energy. It was totally different for me because I'm definitely usually not around that, but it's been a great transition. And in the process, it's interesting because this weekend I had the opportunity to kind of sit one-on-one with one of our players who wanted to come and have more personal conversation about some things that were going on in their life. And as soon as they left my hotel room and closed the door, it almost hit me like a ton of bricks. It's this realization that through the things that I've gone through in my life, or the examples that I've had, just the experiences that I've had, I'm here in this moment and at this time to be able to help these ladies, these young women, being able to share my experiences, share the things that I've learned, and being able to be I've been there.
Yeah.
I've had those questions. I've experienced similar things, and being able to really just relate with them and being able to take the time to spend with them in those moments. I I really love that. And it's been a treat for me to be able to share with them the things that I've learned so that they can almost do it in a better way than what I did. And so I really enjoy that. And not that I didn't have that. I mean, I had personal conversations and things with the guys and everything on the men's side of things, but being able to just connect, I guess you could say, from a female perspective who's been there, right? Who's been in those ladies' shoes. Being able to do that has been such a treat for me being here on the women's side.
And you played college basketball and you're still fairly young. Has that been weird to now be on the other side? You know what I'm saying? You're not the player anymore. You're kind of one of the leaders on the team that girls look up to, and you're still kind of young. Has that been a little bit of a weird transition as well?
No, I wouldn't say it's been weird at all. It's been so exciting and so fun. I tore my ACL 3 times. While I was playing in college, and then one this past May, I hopped on the court. Another funny, I guess you could say, silly thing that happened to me. I jumped on the court in a drill during practice one day just because we needed an extra body, and totally snapped my ACL in half again for the 3rd time. And so I've officially retired from being on the court and retired from probably playing basketball. But being able, again, to be around it day to day and being able to be a part of basketball from the other side of things, it has been such a treat and such a joy. And I can't even say that I have, like, it's not work. It's not a job. It's being able to come in and just really have fun each day and really enjoy what I do. And I think having had that overall, being on the men's side first, coming in over here to the women's side, it's just been great overall.
You mentioned that one of your role models was that gal from Tennessee growing up. Who have been some of your other bigger role models and mentors throughout your career?
You know, I contribute a lot of where I'm sitting as a director of operations today to Coach Pope. Being able to jump in and him being able to teach me a lot of the things that he did and give me a lot of the hands-on experiences in a way I almost call my position that I had at the time almost like a hybrid. Like I wasn't necessarily your stereotypical office assistant, executive assistant that just sat at the desk, answered phone calls, things like that. He involved me in a lot of different things and taught me a lot of different things. And so I really look up to him and I admire a lot of the things that he has done and how that he has taught me, because I think that I am who, like, in my job, who I am today because of a lot of that experience that I had being on his staff.
I love that. What's so cool about basketball is you get people from so many different cultures and backgrounds. How do you feel like you've been able to help create a positive and inclusive environment for everyone that comes to BYU?
You know, I think it's honestly, first and foremost for me, just being myself, and remembering who I am, and then just trying to be genuine and just really trying to take the time to relate, I guess you could say, trying to make a connection with everyone that I do come in contact with, I do meet, but then being authentically and genuinely myself has really helped, I think, in connecting with others, trying to help people realize that BYU isn't this, I guess you could say, what they think of stereotypically, right? Like when I go and I meet people in person, when we go on these road trips, they pause for a second or they look and they're like, wait, hold on, like they see my outfits or like my nail, all this kind of different things, and they're like, oh, like we didn't expect this, or like we didn't expect this to be you. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm just a normal person, just like anybody else. And just because I have BYU on my chest, or because I am a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, it doesn't make me any different. The only thing that's different is that I believe in Christ, and you may not believe in Christ, kind of deal, but it's I think just about being, I think, authentically and genuinely who you are when it comes down to it.
I love that. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll have more from Natalie Lainhart, Director of Operations for the BYU women's basketball team. This is Her Why. Welcome back to Her Why. I'm Lauren McLean. We're here with Natalie Lainhart, Director of Operations for the women's basketball team. So you were born in Houston, but you're originally from Las Vegas. What was it like growing up there?
I love Las Vegas. I love everything about it. All the people, the experiences I had there. probably because I grew up in Las Vegas. I love the heat, and so the cold really isn't my thing, even though I've been here in Utah now for several years. But everything about Vegas, I absolutely love it.
What was your family like growing up?
So my family, if I wish I could have them here. I wish that you could meet them. My mom and dad are amazing. I absolutely love my mom and dad. But I have my mom, my dad, my brother. He's about 14 months or so younger than I am. And then my brother also has a son. And so I have a little nephew.
Oh, and you were adopted when you were a baby.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like growing up with that knowledge?
It was great. Honestly, so I feel like there's so many different elements and there's so many different aspects of adoption. And for me, right, and this is just from my perspective, and I can't speak to other people or how they may feel, because I know my brother's perspective on adoption is a lot different than my perspective is. But I honestly, it's been one of those things that it's always there, right? Like, I know that I am adopted at the end of the day, but I feel like my family, my mom and dad especially, my aunts, uncles, cousins, everybody, it's so funny because I've had experiences, and I think the best way to describe it, and so I'll give this example. Some of my little cousins, they will ask like questions, right, to my aunt or uncle, their mom or dad, and they'll say, well, like, why does Natalie have curly hair, or like, why does Natalie, like, why is her skin like this kind of deal? Because like she's just like a part of the family, like she's no different than anyone else kind of deal. And so then that's when like the adoption conversation comes up and things. But I say that because at the end of the day, like, my family is my family, and they've never ever looked at it as like, oh, Natalie's adopted. Like, no, I've always been a part of the family. It's physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, my family is my family at the end of the day. And so it's no different for me than it is, I guess you could say, anyone else. Yeah. And my experience has been nothing but amazing and great. And because at the end of the day, my mom is my mom, my dad is my dad. And I'm super grateful for my birth mom for the decision that she did make to place me for adoption, because I don't think that I would be who I am today if I wasn't raised by my mom and dad, and I wasn't surrounded by all the family that loves me and supports me and holds me up each and every day.
It's exactly how it should be. I love that. Did you always play basketball growing up?
I did.
Was that kind of your main sport? Did you have other things that you did as well?
Yes. So basketball was always the main thing, and it was always a part of my life, very prevalent in my life. My mom growing up was definitely the one that talked about balance. She was always, balance is important, and so she put us in a few other things. When I was really little, I tried karate, I did dance for a little bit, all those like little other side, I guess you could say, sports to basketball, but basketball always, I think, that was the one thing that I was always drawn back to. I played the piano, I did the violin. Like, my mom tried to keep, I guess you could say, the balance going in there, but again, it was always basketball, and basketball was number one. Well,
you were very good at it. You were named the Southern Nevada Female Athlete of the Year. So obviously you probably had some schools looking at you. What were your plans after your high school career?
After high school, it was always, the goal was to get a basketball scholarship, go and play D1. That was always the goal. That was always something that I wanted. And so I was super grateful during my recruiting process to be able to be recruited, to be able to get that scholarship offer, and then to be able to go on and play college basketball. It was a goal, a dream. It was something that I was bound in a tournament, always wanted it, and so to be able to do it, I was super grateful for that opportunity.
And you played at the University of Idaho, BYU Hawaii, and Slick, but also made your way through some other colleges for school. How would you describe your college basketball journey?
I would describe it as something that was, I guess the word that comes to mind is unexpected. I think you have this dream, you have your goals, right, of like wanting to get that scholarship offer, go on and play for the 4 years. I think that for my dream personally, it was to play those 4 years, to become a grad assistant, to work my way up in the ranks as an assistant coach, go on to another school, maybe potentially become a head coach. That was my dream growing up. And so then when I got to school and I started playing, and things weren't necessarily the way that I had expected them, I guess you could say, as far as dynamic of team and coach. And then I, too, if I'm being really fully transparent and honest, I wasn't probably making the best decisions in my life at that time as well. And I'm a firm believer that if you, and I know for myself just through personal testimony, that if you're doing things that you're supposed to be doing in line with the gospel of Jesus Christ, you're going to receive those blessings, right? And so for me at the time, I guess you could say I wasn't making all of like the best right decisions. And then coupled with the things that were kind of going on within like that team dynamic for those first 2 years that I was at the University of Idaho, it didn't go, I guess you could say, the way that I had written my map or written my plan for my college career. And from there I ended up transferring, and that's, I guess you could say, how like I bounced all over in a way. I ended up transferring and deciding that I needed to leave the University of Idaho. And my cousin at the time she had just walked on to BYU Hawaii's team. And I'm not old, but at the time, back then, the transfer portal really wasn't like a huge thing as it is right now, and it wasn't as prevalent as it is today. And so the quickest and easiest thing for me to do was to be able to still like play and to play right away without having to sit out, was to transfer to BYU Hawaii. And that was coupled with the decision of being able to go and be with my cousin, being able to be somewhere where I was surrounded by people that I needed to help me at that time, right? So I was trying to, I guess you could say, get back on track and try to make a little bit better decisions in my life. And then I was able to then go, because it was a D2, go down, step right in and start playing. And so there was a couple of different reasons why I chose that. And honestly, it was one of the best decisions too in going there, and so fun, right? To be my cousin and I lived in a house across the beach, and we just were living life and having so much fun. But then I tore my ACL for the first time being there, and creeping in my like attitude, I guess you could say, and not trying to sound like I was cocky or anything, but I just was like, I want to be back at D1. Like, why am I here at D2? Yeah. Like, I had this goal to play at D1. I want to get back there. And so I ended up transferring again and figured the best place to go so that I had a better opportunity to be able to be potentially picked up was to go to junior college. And so at the time I had heard that Coach Specketer up at Slick was a great coach, and she was putting out all these girls into these big schools, big name schools. And I'm like, yep, that's where I want to go and that's where I want to be. So I transferred up to Slick, and I was there and was healing from going through the recovery process from my first tear. Got back on the court, and within a matter of weeks in practice, I went down. Freak accident. I want to say, if I remember right, it was my coach. I got tripped up by one of the players. She stepped on my foot, and then in me falling, it caused the coach to fall that was playing defense on one of our players at the time. And then she landed on my knee. My knee was in the knee brace, and it totally just snapped right in half again. Gosh. And so then from there, it was kind of, as I started meeting with the doctors, deciding what I was going to do for my plan and surgery and things like that. My doctor at the time had told me that my going already through now a second tear and just how torn up my knee was, that I should probably consider kind of taking a step back from basketball if I wanted to be able to have a knee when I was older and not have a knee replacement by the time I was 40 years old. And so because too, just with like my eligibility and then now being at a JUCO, not really having, I guess you could say, the looks that I wanted to be able to get back to D1, I decided that I was going to get my surgery and that I was going to stay here in Utah. And I decided to transfer down here to UVU and try to walk on at UVU just to be able to finish my career. Yeah. I knew the coaching staff there just through my previous high school recruiting. They told me that I could come down and try to walk on and things like that. And so I moved down here to Utah County and started going to school. And the crazy part about it and the interesting thing was that all of a sudden at that time too, when I had gotten down here to UVU, the mission age change had happened. And everywhere I went, it was just like mission, everywhere. And everyone was talking about going on a mission, being a part. And I was sitting here just like, what? Like, why is everyone talking about going on a mission? Like, this is ridiculous. Like, I want to play college basketball. I want to finish my career. I want to do what I set out here to do. And why do I feel like I need to go on a mission? Like, this is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous. And so my grandma, she is my best friend. She passed away a couple of years ago, but she served a mission. She's actually a convert to the church. She served a mission and is a huge advocate for missions. And while I was actually, we rewind a little bit, while I was at BYU Hawaii, she would send my cousin and I articles or just like notes. She would write us like these notes and just talking about missions all the time. And so then when I had actually transferred to Slick, my cousin decided to go on a mission. And so she went and she served in the Philippines. And I was just like, love you. I support you. You have fun on that mission. I'm going to continue to try to play basketball. But then my grandma, she continued, right? Like as my cousin was on the mission, she continued to just talk to me about missions, send me the mission, all the good mission stuff. And I remember one day, right, because I'm still trying to get back on track, right, in my life. And I feel like I'm finally at this place where like I'm at church, I'm trying my best, right? I'm striving, I'm trying to like get through this like recovery with my knee. I'm doing all of these things that I felt like I'm trying to get back on track, right? Yeah. And I'm trying to just play basketball and I'm trying to just finish my basketball career. And I remember my grandma calling me one day and us having a conversation and her telling me, you know, Nat, if you firmly want to plant your feet within the gospel of Jesus Christ, you will go and you'll serve the Lord. And I don't know why, but like when she said that, it just hit me. And that evening, I remember pulling out a piece of paper and writing down all the pros and cons of why I could go on a mission, why I couldn't go on a mission. And I remember deciding and like looking at that piece of paper and realizing that there was more pros on cons. But as I looked at my cons, I saw all these fears and I saw all the things that I was afraid of. And I decided in that moment that I wasn't going to be afraid of things and I wasn't going to let fear hold me back from something. And so I remember going to sleep just like, you know, I'm going to think on this some more. I remember waking up the next day and I got on my knees and I prayed. And in that prayer, it went something like, Heavenly Father, I love basketball and I want to play basketball. And it's something that you know that I want to do. I don't know why basketball has been so hard up to this point since I've gotten into college, because before then it wasn't, I guess you could say it wasn't hard, quote unquote hard. So I asked him and told him that if you allow me to feel joy with that basketball again that I have in my hands, I will go and I will serve. And as soon as I said amen, that joy and that happiness that I hadn't felt in a while just came flooding over me. And I knew without a doubt that that's what I needed to go and do. I needed to go and I needed to serve. That next day, I was in the bishop's office. By the end of the week, I had my, by the end of the week, just because if I commit to something, I'm going to get after it. And two, I was a little bit older at the time, right? From all these sisters who were deciding to go out because of the age change. And so I knew that if I just didn't get after this, that I was going to come up with some reason to not go, or like something was going to come up that was going to change my mind. And so by the end of the week, my papers were off. And then a couple of weeks later, I got my call and I was off going on a mission.
And you got called to the California Anaheim mission, Spanish speaking.
I did.
How would you describe that experience for you?
Oh, my mission was amazing. And I know everybody says that their mission is so amazing, but I would say that my mission was amazing in everything that I could have thought it was and more, because going back to what my grandma said about it firmly planting my feet within the gospel of Jesus Christ, it did just that. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I was able to help so many different people come under Christ, to be baptized, to do all of the things that you're supposed to go do, right, as a missionary. But I think from my mission, and I'm probably going to sound a little selfish, my mission was for me at the end of the day. Like, again, I met so many fantastic people in Anaheim, and I still have relationships with a lot of the people that I taught, or even ward members. And I wouldn't be who I am today if I didn't go and serve that mission. And so my mission at the end of the day was definitely made for me and built in a way, I think, that helped push me, motivate me, drive me within the gospel of Jesus Christ, that I will eternally and forever be grateful for.
Incredible. And it sounds like you're right where you're supposed to be now. And I love that. How have you taken the experiences that you had in basketball, all your injuries and all the mental challenges you had to go through with that, and then serving a mission and having these incredible experiences. How do you feel like you've taken those experiences and been able to help the women that you are working with now?
When it comes to the ladies, I think that for me, it's just been about finding connection, finding a personal connection, and then being willing to just listen and being willing to just always have just an open ear and being able to just express to them and just get to a level of understanding with them, that they know that they can call me whenever, they can come to my office and talk to me whenever, they can pull me aside whenever, and just really always just making myself available to them, and then just knowing and really trusting, I guess you could say, in the spirit. And this probably sounds so silly, but I really rely on the spirit in those moments, and I really try to trust in him to be able to guide and direct me, to know like when the moment is right to be able to share those experiences and to be able to share the things that I've gone through. So then you connect, you just are able to make those just real genuine and true connections in helping the ladies out each and every day.
We're speaking with Natalie Lainhart, Director of Operations for BYU Women's Basketball Team. What a blessing you are to those women. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story with us.
No, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks also to Annie Robinson and Sydney Simpson for producing this episode. Cleon Wall is a senior producer. Her Why is a production of BYU Radio.